welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Emmanuel Acho, and we have huge, and I mean huge news in the NFL. For only the third time in the league's history, a first-round pick has been forfeited. Now remember, the previous two times, Spygate, New England Patriots, Deflategate, New England Patriots, but now the third time, the Miami Dolphins are forfeiting a first-round pick. The question is why? What did they do to cause them to lose a first-round pick, a historic loss? Well, they tampered with Sean Payton, former coach for the New Orleans Saints, and once again, Tom Brady, former quarterback for the New England Patriots. They were having conversations with those two gentlemen while they were under contract with other teams. So what does this mean? Well, first and foremost, it means vindication for one man. One man, Brian Flores. Remember, February 1st, Brian Flores filed a suit against all 32 teams, including the Miami Dolphins, in which he alleged owner Stephen Ross said, look, I will give you $100,000 for every game you lose. Not only that, I want you to lose games to increase our draft position. Now, the forfeit of the first-round pick was not actually because they were found guilty of anything with Brian Flores, but what the suit does in fact claim, based on the investigations, owner Stephen Ross did say, I prioritize 2020 draft picks more than 2019 wins and losses. If that does not imply you should forfeit games, I do not know what does. I'm reminded of my college coaches who would say, now look, Acho, it's academics first and it's football second. See, sometimes it's not what somebody says, it's how somebody makes you feel. And how I feel about the punishment for the Miami Dolphins is vindication for this man and fairness for the National Football League. I told you how I feel, but I got to head to the desk, join my brilliant cast of characters, the one and only Joy Taylor, co-host of The Herd, and Slick Rick, who's really just all things brilliance. No longer NBA insider, Slick. You're just all things brilliant mind. I've said how I feel about the punishment, but Joy, let me go to you first. What do you make of the Dolphins' punishment?
Oh, the Miami Dolphins. Only the Miami Dolphins could cheat this bad and still not land a guy. Right? How you do that? You even mess up the cheating? Ridiculous. I'm not surprised. Honestly, I can't even pretend that I was particularly moved by any of this because I've been watching and covering the Miami Dolphins for most of my life, and I can't get surprised anymore. Once you're jaded for so long, it's like you just start to expect these things. I did think that when this story first came out, I was like, that feels like a Miami type of thing to happen. But it doesn't really feel like you're supposed to be doing that. I mean, these guys were playing and coaching in the league. Are we doing the tampering thing? Because we always hear about tampering in the NBA, obviously, but it's not such a big thing in the NFL. It doesn't feel like a severe enough punishment. We've had a lot of conversations about what severe enough punishments are this week. 6 games, which is, of course, the same amount of time that Deshaun Watson got in his punishment. Obviously, the loss of draft picks is significant. Losing a first-round draft pick is significant. The Stephen Ross fine, $1.5 million. Obviously, that is not a whole lot of money to a man worth almost
$8.6 billion.
$8.6 billion, almost $9 billion. That's not a lot of money, but trees don't grow to the sky. I don't think that you can just start levying out outlandish fines. Where do you set the standard for, that amount of money? 1.5 is still 1.5. But at the end of the day, and Nick Wright said this earlier on The Herd, when you're talking about punishments, what message does it send to the rest of the league? When you're talking about Tom Brady and Sean Payton, the tampering with those two individuals of that kind of status, and the punishment is $1.5 million, 6 games away from the team, which for an owner who's owned the team for quite some time, not a significant amount of time. He doesn't make the daily decisions. He's not a Jerry Jones whose, hands are in everything. So it's not really a significant amount of time away from the team. I do think the committee thing is significant, that he's been removed from all the committees, and Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, being removed from all the committees. But what message does it send to the rest of the league? Is this really punitive, considering the scope of the tampering that has been confirmed by the league and with the particular individuals that we're talking about? People are always trying to push it just a little bit over the line. If that's the consequence, you know how to set the tone with young people or with people that are, need to have guidelines. It doesn't really seem like that's going to send a message of, you better not do this.
Here's what's fascinating, Joy, and Slick, I can't wait to get your thoughts. I'm thinking if you lose a first-round pick, that is a fairly massive deal when you think about the MVPs as of late, not named Tom Brady or former first-round picks, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. The Miami Dolphins quarterback was a first-round pick, Tua Tagovailoa. Beyond that, football is played in chess. And the beauty of the game of chess, you play chess? Chess player?
Of course I play chess.
Chess player? Mm-hmm. Chess player.
I went to chess class.
Oh, God.
I was a chess nerd.
Inner nerd. Of course she was. The beauty of the game of chess is you're always calculating your future moves. The Dolphins, by sacrificing this pick, remember, the Dolphins have had a couple first-round picks in the upcoming drafts. When you lose one, now you can't necessarily leverage yourself the same way as you could have leveraged yourself prior. I actually think that a first-round pick is a pretty big levy. Slick, where do you stand based upon the actions at hand?
It is big. The first round pick is big. There's no mistake about that. But I judge this based on, is the punishment enough to deter anybody else from even thinking about doing this? And to your point, Joy, we're talking about not just a quarterback and not just a coach, but arguably the greatest quarterback of all time and a Super Bowl winning, well-respected head coach. So does the first-round pick and the $1.5 million, as we've said,
that ain't
dismissive.
That's
and I would
salary.
even say the temporary removal from NFL business is not that punitive. So where are we really? And would it ever cause anybody to go, okay, well, the one thing we can't do is that? I'm not even sure it does that as far as tampering is concerned. But when it comes to the other part, and this is where I did not expect you to cause me pain this early in the show, but right off the bat, you said Brian Flores has been vindicated.
Yes.
By this.
I agree.
And I would say that he has not. Because while it has been acknowledged that what he said was true, there is no penalty here, or there's no acknowledgement that they did anything wrong in terms of the tanking, the message that he got, and the difficult position that he was put in to say, hey, you know what? Losing would be okay. And I understand Brian's position because, look, I'm a head coach trying to prove that I can that I can win, that I am a head coach in the NFL. And he was put in this difficult position of, we should lose. And I love when you guys start writing as I'm talking.
I got to keep track of what you got wrong.
That wasn't acknowledged, and that wasn't punished. Now, does tanking happen? Yes. Tampering happens in the NBA. Tanking happens. It's going to happen this season in particular. It's happening in Major League Baseball right now. It happens. So I understand the difficulty that the league has. But when you have certifiable proof and you acknowledge that proof, how do you not then penalize it?
Here's my thought, though. Here's my thought. Y'all, there are three incredibly different lanes that we could go down that are all very, very fascinating. One of the lanes, Brian Flores, that wasn't necessarily a acknowledgement, so not vindicated there. I hear that. But the lane that intrigues me the most, Joy, is the punishment enough? Let's be real. Let's have a conversation that's sports but adjacent to sports. If you want to commit a crime, regardless of the level, you're going to commit the crime regardless of the punishment. Slick, when I drive through Beverly Hills just trying to go eat, not living there, when I drive through Beverly Hills just trying to go eat, I understand that if I park in certain spots, I'm going to get a ticket. But guess what, Joy? I don't care about no $75 ticket because trying to find parking and paying to park is still going to hit me for $33.
Sure.
And the time is money. I don't care about a $75 ticket. Getting towed, more so. But even getting towed, I'll call it Uber. So if you want to commit a crime, you're going to commit a crime. Run a red light, you get a ticket. If you want to commit a crime, you're going to commit a crime. Being deterred from committing a crime isn't as much about a punishment as it is about just a inherent, I do not want to do this. Even if they would have fined them 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks, $50 million. I don't think that a future person who's mindful of committing a crime is going to be like, ugh, I don't want to get fined those 2 first-round picks. If you're going to commit a crime, I think you will commit a crime regardless.
No, you'll just be smarter about how you commit the crime.
Fair.
You'll be smarter. $50 million, 5 first-round picks, that will deter people from doing what the Dolphins did. Now, I'm with you. Someone might still try and do it, but they aren't going to be quite as obvious into the scope and level that the Dolphins reached, which, according to the NFL, was quite a lot. Also, you should take the Uber before you get the ticket. And get,
Let's start there.
I don't know when the last time you got your car towed, but it's not a pleasant experience.
Good point.
As far as the tanking goes, that's a separate conversation, although I do agree with Emmanuel. I thought Brian Flores, to me, essentially won his case. Roger Goodell acknowledged that when you are an owner, you can't just speak flippantly about losing games to the people who are responsible for winning games. So that's, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what Roger Goodell said. So when you're talking about the penalty and the suspensions here and the amount of money and all of that, I do agree with you that if you want to do something, you will do it. Although I do think that there are extreme punishments that will make people who are on the fence, I'm probably closer to a criminal than you, will consider before doing these things. But I think that the message that the league sent is more about not projecting this, absorbing this as someone who's covered and watched the Dolphins and actively wants the Dolphins to be good, and paying attention to how badly this was botched with all the tampering, and the fact that Brian Flores' lawsuit blew this up. So perhaps we maybe never even found out about this if this had all come together and Brian Flores had not sued. I think when you look at how all this is played out, it isn't enough.
Slick, talk to me about Brian Flores, because we've kind of, to some degree, exhausted the Miami Dolphins' punishment of it all. I know where you stand, Joy. I know where you stand. But I'm fascinated by you saying Brian Flores wasn't vindicated. I personally look and say, well, look, we've seen the punishment. We have seen the acknowledgement of wrongdoing.
Okay.
Right.
The acknowledgement of wrongdoing is owner Stephen Ross said, I care more about 2020 draft picks than the 2019 record. Brian Flores, you have been proven true. We haven't found the $100,000 that you claimed, Brian Flores, but if the owner said that, it's not too far-fetched.
Sure.
Brian Flores, currently coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he has a job and we've had acknowledgement of wrongdoing. How do you still feel as though he's not vindicated?
Well, number one, he's not a head coach in the NFL. And I don't know that he's any closer to being a head coach in the NFL. And I can't help but the circumstances that he was put in by the Miami Dolphins led to him being where he is, which is basically being sent, given a saving rope from Bill Belichick in order to stay in the NFL. So there's that. But there's also, yes, Roger Goodell said, hey, Stephen Ross, you can't say things like that. But there's no punishment there. Like, what's going to prevent Stephen Ross or anybody else from doing exactly what they did again?
Well, I think that's what Brian Flores' lawsuit intends to do. Okay. Now, in order for the league to punish Stephen Ross in this situation, there would have had to have been exact proof that Stephen Ross, not proof, but there had to have been some receipts that here's the $100,000 check and I want you to produce this loss. Where I think he's vindicated is, yes, people tank all the time, of course. But when you're talking about the integrity of the game,
yes, you
can't say, do that, and I will pay you to do that, whether you're joking or not.
Okay, but let's be real. It's not the $100,000. It's the owner who employs you saying, this is what I want. And he is now no longer employed by the Miami.
But when you tank, as we know teams do in every sport,
yes,
for multiple purposes, fans, advertisers, current players, future players, gambling.
Right.
We know you're tanking. We can see that you're tanking.
Understood.
It is very obvious. But what happened with the Dolphins was, and what Brian Flores' issue is, you want me to present like we're trying, but actually I am manipulating the situation to lose.
Without question. But if you found that request was made, you have evidence that was made, and you say, okay, you can't do that. But there's no penalty. There's no punishment for having actually said it to your coach. Then are you upholding the integrity of the league?
Fair.
Just simply saying that you're not supposed to do this. And it doesn't vindicate Brian Flores because it does not acknowledge the difficult position that he was put in by his owner when that request was being made. Brian, thank you very much for not following what your owner wanted you to do. And I'm sorry that you lost your job as a result of all that. That doesn't feel like vindication to me. It simply feels like acknowledgement. You know what, Brian, you were right. Sorry that happened to you. Vindication for me is justice. Like you get something back.
Yeah, I don't think that we have seen justice yet for Brian Flores. I do think we have seen accountability to some degree for the Miami Dolphins, but I am hopeful that eventually Brian Flores gets another head coaching job, because that would be true vindication. For now, we'll see what the Dolphins do with their remaining draft picks when the time comes.